Sometimes, not often, but sometimes, when it seems that surely everything that needs to be said has for a while been said, and the muse seems elsewhere, and the page is blank or the screen is blank, taunting in their emptiness. If I've been at all deserving, something reaches into that abyss and says, "Here, read this." And so there came to me this poem by Mary Oliver, and she called it The Pine Woods. Just before dawn, 3 deer came walking down the trail, as if the moment were nothing different from eternity. As lightly as that, they nibbled the leaves they drank from the pond, their pretty mouths sucking the loose silver, their heavy eyes shining. Listen, I did not really see them. I came later and saw their tracks on the empty sand. Now, I don't believe only to the edge of what my eyes actually see, she wrote. Do you? And my life, which is my body, surely, is also something more. Isn't yours? I suppose the deer waited to see the sun lifted itself up, filling the hills with light and shadow. Then they went leaping back into the rough, uncharted pine woods, where I have lived so much of my life, where everything is so quick and so uncertain, so glancing, so improbable, so real. Oliver says I don't believe only to the edge of what my eyes actually see. And then she asked, do you? Wanting your answer, of course, to be, of course. The negative in the statement followed by the positive question is confusing, and I think deliberately so. It takes a moment to understand that she is asking if you, like she, believe there is more than what you can see. She wants you to say, she expects you to say, well, of course, I believe there is more beyond the edge of what I can see. But I know that there are some who will dig in here and say, and insist, no, what you see is what you get. What you see is what there is. Nothing more. Nothing more. And then Mary Oliver says that the body is the life, but more than that. And she asks, isn't yours? Wanting your answer to be, of course, yes. But I know that there are some who will dig in here and insist, no, what you see is what you get. What you see is what there is. Nothing more. Nothing more. We who gather here, we Unitarian Universalists, are of one mind about what is actual, about what we are really not of one mind. Or not of one mind about where the edges of the known world are, or whether there is a place to fall off into mystery. Some live only on the firm ground, others live with a toe dipping into the boundless, ready for the sea to part, or some smaller miracle. Such diversity of belief or non-belief in religious community is both our blessing and our challenge. For we are like rocket scientists living in a circus, or like clowns flapping about a laboratory. Each can cause the other some consternation. But the whole thing works. It works towards some end which is perhaps not yet crystal clear. It works for as long as we enjoy the mix and enjoy each other and live in it and grow with it, with no locked doors, no keep out signs on thought or faith, which is why I call this sermon Confessions of a Morthanist. For it is a confession, it's an admission. It's an admission that I live with a toe in the vast unknown. That yes, I believe beyond the edge of what my eyes actually see. And yes, I believe that I am more than a pile of bones plodding toward the grave with a loose head on top. And to the skeptic I can only say, with Hamlet to Horatio, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. I came by my credulity honestly, by family and by culture. I was raised in England, a land steeped in mist and mystery. My great-grandparents were tenant farmers. Their forebears were peasants claimed by Holy Church and noble lords for the received faith, but no doubt more given to harvest gods and goddesses, to firelit dances in wheat-field clearings, to witches and wizards and goblins and things that go bob in the night. My grandmother was a reader of tea leaves and palms. She consorted with spirits and told dark tales. This was before the Jehovah's Witnesses got her. And my father, it could be said, was a pagan. He and my mother never went to church except to hear me preach, and that was to worship their son more than God. My father taught me to converse with animals, to spot the places in the wood where, when the moon rose, the fairies danced and feasted and held their courts. With my people, there was always more than met the eye. And the eye was led to see beyond the obvious, to see or be prepared to see beyond the edge. And so, though my foolish behavior in adolescence, more foolish than noble and normal, would seem to have belied it, I was ripe for religion of some kind, and for some place in it. My gang of thugs and clowns, of teachers and constabularies might have been surprised when I announced for the cloth, but those close behind my attic facade were not. It had been a long and convoluted journey from unblinking belief in gospels, creeds, and saving cross, to academic disbelief and the shucking off of all the above, and then into the mysteries of native peoples and back to God, sort of. I have been a hedonist. I have been an ordained Methodist minister, a humanist, a Unitarian Universalist. And for all of that, it came to me not long ago that what I really am, all things melded into one, what I really am is a Morthanist. And I was delighted when this title, as an essay, was first published in Atlanta. Several people in Atlanta went to their dictionaries and their online encyclopedias and looked up Morthanist. Well, they didn't find it, of course, because it's really very simple. Listen to Mary Oliver again. She wrote, "But I don't believe only to the edge of what my eyes actually see." And she wrote, "My life, which is my body surely, is also something more. I am then like Oliver, or perhaps if she were to name it, I am a Morthanist," and maybe she was too, if she would name it. I believe, no, I'm a fundamentalist in this. I know that there is more that meets the eye. More in heaven and earth than our philosophies are dreamt of, and that I am more than an aging body with the brain on top. But then I now realize I have always been a Morthanist. From the time I was a boy, sitting beside my father among the wildflowers in a meadow, watching the rabbit watching us. And I have known that there was more than we saw. And I knew that I was part of whatever more there was. And later in the trying out years of my ministering, sitting beside a child's dying mother, amid the beeping, blinking, huffing machines, I knew there was more than her body, more than mine, more than the machines, more than the prayer book closed and forgotten on my lap. In the hills, high above the desert floor, I knew there was more than the eagles soaring above me, more than the insisting calling of the doves. There was more than my eyes could see, or my ears could hear, or my skin feel against the desert wind. There was more than my eyes could see, there was more than my ears could hear. More than once in that place I had thought of the words of Black Elk, who spoke of his mountain vision. And while I stood there, he said, I saw more than I can tell, and I understood more than I saw, for I was seeing in a sacred manner the shapes of all things in the Spirit, and the shape of all things as they must live together, like one being. Humankind has always known that we, like all beings, live in the depth of all being, having an awareness of more than, living in a presence accepted or denied. One researcher has claimed to have isolated the God spot, a place in the brain, he says, that predisposes human beings toward religion and religious experience. But, of course, what has been difficult for many of us has been humankind's propensity to grasp the sense of wonder, the sense of awe, the idea of the holy, the sense of the sacred, to grasp it and set it upon human legs, give it a human voice, give it a human face, name it with an unnameable name, give it the power beyond the dreams of 1,000 kings, cajole it, plead with it, fear it, love it, and if it grows old and fails to deliver, disbelieve it. The idea of Morthanism is very simple. The whole is more than the sum. of its parts. I believe that humankind has always known that intuitively, but has crowded out the knowledge as civilization has made it inconvenient. The Laguna Indian Leslie Marmon Soko, the author of a marvelous book, Ceremony, Leslie Soko says that one of her characters see white people as having been created by witches. And the witches say of their creation, they see no life when they look. They see only objects. The world is a dead thing for them. The trees and the rivers are not alive for them. The mountains and the stones are not alive. The deer and the bear are objects. They see no life. Humankind cast off the sense of an enchanted world and has since not been content to live in the beauty of simplicity, but insisting on making something and use it, and if need be, destroy it. It occurs to me that in the Genesis story of creation, Adam and Eve never saw God until they messed up. And then God appeared to them in the garden. It was as if God had said, "Don't make me come down." But of course they did. They made him come down and walk and talk, and then it was all over. It was no longer God. What the theologian Rudolf Otto called the mysterium tremendum got stuffed into human form and thought like a scarecrow. And just before packing them up to retire, I sat one day in my office at the church in Atlanta, and I looked at the rows and rows of books collected over almost 50 years. Tomes, treatises, pontifications, systematic theologies, comparative religions, psychologies of religions, histories, compilations, heresies, burnings, sermons, essays, and a dissertation. Angels on the heads of pins. The problem of evil. How could a good God allow evil? Barthianism versus neo-orthodoxy. Free will versus predestination. It was all there. And I have struggled for decades with all that and more, as if there was a conclusion to be reached from it all. Some resolution to be arrived at. But of course, there isn't. There is no resolution. Not that I have become an anti-intellectual. All that struggle and faith and wrestling with God must be noted, reconsidered, and perhaps recycled. I mean only to say that as I was leaving the professional practice of religion, it was clear to me that all of that had no bearing whatsoever on my personal religious life. I was converted to Morthanism. The whole is more than the sum of its parts. That is what I experience in what I call my religious experience. When I sit on that bench with my youngest daughter on the rocky rise above the sea in Two Lights Park in Portland, Maine, and watch the waves in violence pound the stone and then in peaceful rattling retreat, I experience myself and the being in which I am immersed, and I know that each part, each bone, shell, cell, boulder, molecule, all added together is not all there is. And it is awesome. It is awesome to be drawn beyond the edge, to remember with body and mind and spirit who I am, that I am not a subject observer of a scene of objects, but I am an indivisible part of the whole in which I participate. It is the sad consequence of the westernization of our lives that we have come to distrust our experience and to distrust our intuition. Mature religion does not abandon reason, neither should it idolize reason, but give reason, intuition, and experience equal status in living in the world. And why do I tell you this? Certainly not to attempt to convert you if you have already given your soul to pure reason. Morthanism will embrace you as you are. There will be no altar call for sobbing penitence. Perhaps I mean only to distract you for a few moments, to pull aside a curtain, so to speak, to offer a glimpse of another view of the world from a seasoned traveler's experience, perhaps simply to share experience with nothing expected from the sharing. But it is also to urge you to continue in a journey, not to stop, not to be too sure that you have arrived, not to be afraid to go over old ground. I think of the gladness with which as a child I embraced the obvious, those signs of fairy gatherings, the rabbit stopped to tell a story, an ancient presence among the stones of a country church. I realized that my path has been not so much a pilgrim's progress as a circling around. And I'm reminded by the lines of T.S. Eliot, we shall not cease from exploration. At the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Will you, as you're willing and able, stand for the closing song, number 77.
We have a special accompaniment on this song. Our young people have been doing a special project. We have a small bamboo